A very good evening and a warm welcome to everyone present here. Today, we all have gathered here to witness the fifth lecture of our Centenary Lecture series, which would be delivered by our beloved alumnus, Dr. Purandar Bhattacharya. He would be sharing with us his experience in management and would talk on the topic of management romancing with corporate life. Today, our session would be chaired by Professor Ashok Kumar Mollik, our beloved alumnus and former professor IIT Kanpur, Department of Mechanical Engineering. I would request Sir to take over. Please, sir.
Thank you, Shumana. This is the first time I have been asked to formally introduce a speaker who is a very close friend for almost 6 decades. Still, I'll not add anything on my own. I'll just read out the official script handed over to me. Dr. Purandar Bhattacharya did his Bachelor of Engineering from the Mechanical Engineering Department of Bengal Engineering College, Shibpur in the year 1967. Thereafter, he completed his M.Tech and PhD from the Applied Mechanics Department of IIT Delhi. Professor B. Karunesh was his thesis supervisor. And in 1990, as a Commonwealth Scholar, he completed the Senior Management course offered by the Henley Management Institute in UK. After finishing his PhD, he had a short stint as a faculty member in RIT, Regional Institute of Technology, that was the name those days, in Jamshedpur. From there, he moved to industry. Starting from the R&D division of EMC, there is a company in Kolkata, he very swiftly moved to senior management position. Thereafter, he served at various high-level positions in various industries, such as GM of Nalco, the CEO of Indal, the COO of Esa Steel. Finally, he moved to Usha Martin, one of the largest wire rope manufacturing company of the world. Under his tenure as the MD and CEO of Usha Martin, the company crossed for the first time rupees 4,000 crore mark. He retired from Usha Martin in the year 2011. He also served on the board of several companies in India and abroad. Now the platform is handed over to Dr. Bhattacharya. Thank you.
So I can start?
Yes, sir. Please take over.
Okay. Thank you, Ashok. And thank you for being a friend for 60 years. When you were reading my resume, I thought it's another application for another job somewhere in some other sector, some other company, some other state, some other people. That has been the sort of excitement of my life. The first thing I want to do is to thank my college, the Mechanical Engineering Department, Shudeep and his team for giving me this opportunity. I'm not very good in Thanksgiving because I recall once I was asked to give a vote of thanks in an important meeting, and I was told that I should cover everybody so that nobody feels offended. And eventually what happened, I forgot to thank Buddhadev Bhattacharya, who was the chief guest, and I ended up thanking me for agreeing to give the vote of thanks. So, so please take from my heart that my intent, rather than how I have been able to acknowledge it, that I'm extremely grateful for inviting me to talk something which is basically sharing my experience. Now I must take this opportunity to go back to my institute where 60 years back I walked in Dowling Hostel as a 16 years old boy and spent 5 years there In those days, we didn't have so many private engineering colleges producing run-of-the-mill engineers, MBAs in lakhs and lakhs. In those days, the numbers were limited.
Purandar, may I request you to share your screen? Why don't you please share your screen?
Okay, sorry. I have not shared. Is it okay? Oh God, something is going wrong.
No, so you have already joined.
No, sharing
Yeah,
screen means, I mean, Purandar, you have a presentation which needs to be shared.
Oh yes, but I thought, no. I have only 3 videos. As and when it comes, I will share.
So then Achyuta, he doesn't have anything to share that way, no?
I don't have PowerPoints. No, my entire thing is verbal.
Yeah, that's okay then. I think the way you
So
are.
long I am visible, it's all right. Am I visible now?
Yes.
Visible
Yeah,
and
yeah.
audible.
Yes, sir, you're visible.
I
Achyuta,
have.
he doesn't have any presentation to share, no? So it's only he will be in spotlight while he's
I will
talking.
show 3 or 4 small video clipping. The balance will be really verbalizing.
Yeah,
Is that
that's fine then. Yeah.
okay? Where did I end? Can I continue, sir?
Yes, please, sir.
Okay. So I as I said that 60 years back, as a 16 years old boy, I worked in Downing Hostel, and for 5 years I was there. And in those days, we did not have so many engineers. Of course, the job opportunities were also low. But as far as parents are concerned, if you enter an engineering college like Shibpur, IIT, Roorkee, etc., there used to be a sense of pride in the family that something has happened. Now, after 5 years, when we come out, after 5 years, when we come out, I'll be very frank that some of us are sort of half-cooked engineers, some are wrongly cooked engineers, and some are absolutely perfect engineers. Now, brilliance, I always considered is a burden, because people like Ashok cannot drift as we have drifted for 40 years of our life. We did not know this year what will be after 2 years. But for people like Ashok, they were destined to be academicians, destined to teach. So they were not in the marketplace to drift like us. Whatever slightly we have grown on the positive side is really by drifting and by virtue of support of some of my friends and well-wishers. I will come to that. I must, before I come to the main subject, let me take 2 minutes more, because I must say one thing. In spite of being distinctly different academically, Ashok was such a close friend. I don't say our relation was like Hardy and Ramanujam, but there were some interesting numbers between us. We both bought our cars, both second-hand. He bought an Ambassador, I bought a Fiat, and in 1977. And he said that the number plates are absolutely uninteresting. I said, no, Ashok, it's wrong. The number plates are very interesting. Your one is 9896 and mine one is 4842. It exactly represents the type of marks we used to get in our college days between us. But Ashok had some sort of a faith on me. He used to always tell me, Purandar, don't trust the number plates. You're slightly better than that. So that is the type of friends I got in the college. And for Amitabh, I want to just mention one thing. Of course, he had his own style of appreciation, but Amitabh one day told me something which struck me, but it was too late in the college, but it helped me in IITs. He saw me one in examination hall. I'm doing like this. So he said, "What are you doing?" He was an investigator. It was his paper. I said, "I'm trying to draw a free body diagram." He said, "I see. Which number question?" I said, "Number 7. He left. He didn't tell me anything more. After a month, he called me and told me something which had a strong influence on me. He said in Bengali, but it was English, is Purandar examination hall is not for research or invention. It is for reproduction of what you have studied, what you have understood, and what you are confident to reproduce to score good marks. Why are you not a little more serious so that you can do a little better?" And trust me, this sort of encouragement did help, and I was quite a changed guy in IIT Delhi, to be very frank. Now, I now try to come to my main topic, that for which I will request Vidyut, because when I play, the sound is not coming, to play a orchestra by Zubin, and as soon as it finishes, please pause it or stop it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So let me give him.
Any problem?
সাউন্ডটা তোমাদের আসছে না, সাউন্ড
আসছে না?
ভিডিও কোনোটাই এফেক্ট হয়নি।
Then should I play? Because mine one will at least play.
Last time I played the same one. Last time it played. So let me try one more time. See, is my screen visible now?
Yeah.
Is it audible now?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, sir, it's audible.
Okay, we come back to the screen. Now, why I showed it, somebody will be looking at the music, but I get a very big lesson from it. There is no doubt who is the master, who is the boss, who is the leader. There is no doubt about it. But Zubin is having only a stick. That's not for beating people. That's just to keep the rhythm. And he has a script in front of him, which he has written. So he has written the script and he has decided to maintain the rhythm. And his team is of hundreds of world-class musicians on different instruments. And these are world-class players. What they are doing is they are excited. They are absolutely romancing with music. They love what they are doing, and they are playing as per the tune and as per the script of Zubin Mehta. And that is what is creating the music. Just imagine these world-class players individually on different instruments. If they play different music, somebody Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, somebody starts playing something else, it will not be a music, it will be a noise. Even if they play the same script, but out of tune, again it will become a noise. So at the end of the day, to create that music, what Zubin is ensuring, along with his team player, because you can see that Zubin can direct, but at the end of the day, who is playing? The people, the team members, and they are the motivated ones. They love what they are doing. And as a whole, it's an environment which has a fantastic flavor. And that is how every organization runs. That's how even an education institute runs, according to me. I tend not to comment on education institute in front of Amtavada, etc. But the fact remains, you can have world-class professors and students, etc. At the end of the day, the differentiator is what is the environment? Is the environment an exciting one? Is the environment such that everybody wants to give their best? And that happens by the culture driven by the leader. So even in industry, I'm telling you that somehow we quite often hire and fire people, etc., etc., etc. People do not change. People do not change as they are, except from personal crisis or some enlightenment like Kalidas or Gautam Buddha, etc. Otherwise, we are what we are. And changing us is a Herculean task, and that is not the role of the managers. That is not the role of the management or the leaders. The management has to create an environment which has a flavor where everybody feels excited to give 110% of what they are. I would like to share a video, which is a very favorite video, but I still believe that this video Shumantro presented to World Economic Forum borrowed from me because he had visited my factory in Hazira, and I had told him my philosophy. That I had told him the first time that how I could be a chief operating officer of one of the largest steel plant, most modern steel plant, where I have seen steel only once. When my father made a two-story building, I saw some cross steel which came. With that background, I became the head of steel plant with so many foreigners, all world-class steelmaker, only for the reason that I decided my role is like Zubin Mehta. I will create excitement, a rhythm like an orchestra where everybody will give their best. And that is what I told Sumantra Ghoshal. Now, Sumantra Ghoshal is a famous guru, management guru. Sumantra happens to be a good friend of my wife. They did BSc physics together. Now again the same story. Sumantra was not up to the mark in physics. So he changed his track, became world famous management guru. And my wife doing everything got attached to my kitchen. So that's the type of difference happens if the talent, what you like from your heart, if you do that. Even if you are brilliant in some subject, it is not necessary you should do that. You should do what you feel the best in from your heart. I will show a short clipping of Steve Jobs. Without knowing much about him, I'm a great admirer of him because he talks of life, he talks of reality, he does not talk of technology. So first, let me show the video clipping of Sumantra Ghoshal. He speaks very well, and I request us to mark his sentences because that really what management means. That is what really the leadership means. Leadership is not making profit. That's a very noisy definition of leadership, that I made so much profit. Okay, next year the profit may go down because of economic condition or corona or COVID or whatever it is. That does not mean you have become a bad leader. Leadership is beyond those noisy profits and acquisitions, and it is a term which is more of philosophy, more of love, more of flavor. So I just go to that particular one. This I will share. Sorry. Share. Just give me 1 minute because I'm not an expert. Well, where is my camera?
Individuals do not change fundamentally in who they are without a very serious personal crisis of some kind. But the conclusion, again, for us, perhaps the key conclusion is that is the wrong question to ask. Revitalizing people has a lot less to do with changing people and has a lot more to do with changing the context that companies, that senior managers, that people in this room create around their people. Now, context, some manager called it the smell of the place. It's a hard thing to describe. And then let me try to describe it the best way I experience it, through my personal experience, if you wish. I teach at the London Business School. I live in London, have done so for the last year and a half. Before that, I lived in Fontainebleau in France for about 8 years. Well, one look at me, and then one sound of my accent, and you know I do not come from either of these two wonderful places in the world. I come from India, from the eastern part of India. My hometown is the city of Calcutta. So every year I go to Calcutta in the month of July. That's the only time when my children have a summer vacation. You know, Calcutta is a wonderful town, winter, autumn, and spring. But summer, well, the temperature is 102, 103. The humidity is about 99%. And I feel very tired. Most of my vacation, I'm tired. I'm indoors. I used to live in Fontainebleau. And this I genuinely challenge you. Go to the forest of Fontainebleau in spring. Go with a firm desire to have a leisurely walk. And you can't. The moment you enter the forest, there is something about the crispness of the air. There is something about the smell of the trees in spring. You'd want to jump, you'd want to jog, you want to catch a branch, run, do something. And that, I believe, is the essence of the problem. Most companies, particularly large companies, have created downtown Calcutta in summer inside themselves. And then they complain, they say, you are lazy and you don't take initiative and you don't take cooperation, you are not changing the company. The issue is, it's not about changing me. I have a lot of energy in spring in Fontainebleau, and I'm a bit tired in summer in Calcutta, and that's the issue. To change, ultimately, beyond all these abstractions of strategy, of organization, of processes, at the end, the issue is, how do we change the context? How do we create Fontainebleau forests inside companies? Now, what's the typical context? Typical may be too strong a word, but what's the context that you find in many companies? Not from the esoteric level, where most of the people in this room sit, but from the perspective of this frontline person, the salesman in Lyon. Constraint, it tells me by product, by customer, what I can do. It's a box of constraint. The smell, and I'm trying to relate to that metaphor. We all see it. We enter a place, in the first 5 minutes, you get a smell. You get it in the hum of people, you get it in the quality, the color. The smell is constrained. Compliance. Companies create this elaborate infrastructure of systems, planning systems, budgeting systems, financial systems. All of it boils down by the time it travels down to me. The smell it creates for me is compliance. I got to comply. Control. My relationship, not just with my boss, but with the entire management infrastructure, is one of control. It exists to control me. And finally, contract. We repeatedly use the word, your job is a personal contract, relationship with the company is a contract, budget is a personal contract, transfer price is a contract. So, constraint, compliance, control, contract, that's the smell we create. That's what I live in. And then we say, you've got to proactively create change, you have to take initiative, you have to cooperate. Where are you going to get those behaviors? What we found in our research, on the other hand, is a few companies that have created an environment that we describe as the dimensions of stretch, discipline, trust, and support. And let me take a minute or two to explain them. But top management does not create a strategy that boils down as constraints, but rather creates an exciting set of values, an aggressive ambition, all of which create a smell of stretch. Not stretch, we want to be $100 billion company or anything, but stretch in the sense every individual all the time is trying to do more rather than less. Not compliance of all the systems that create compliance, not compliance, but discipline, embedding norms of self-discipline. And you can see that in companies. You can see where day-to-day behavior is shaped by these embedded norms of self-discipline. Self-discipline is, yes, it's meeting the budget, but it's much more. It is if a meeting starts at 9, everybody's there at 9. It is if people collectively agree to a decision in the management committee, even if individually you disagree, you do not start challenging that decision or unraveling it immediately outside the corridor. In Intel, you see this norm, agree or disagree, but commit. Yes, people debate, people argue, but at the end, a decision is taken, and then agree or disagree, but commit. Self-discipline. Also, not control, but support. The whole role of senior management changes where they are not seen as exercises of control, but as those who exist with one purpose only, which is to help me win by access to resources, by coaching, by guidance. And finally, not contract, trust. And trust more than this very contractual sense in which we use the word trust. Trust in the sense that says, if you carry that car, I may be in Australia and you may be in the United States. I may have never met you. But the fact that you carry the car is good enough for me to let go of the safety of business as usual and fly, knowing that you will be the safe pair of hands at the other end. So stretch, discipline, support, trust. And I'll invite you, don't take those words, don't intellectualize those words, but try to sense the smell that can be created if those are the norms of behavior. And our research says two things. One, it is possible to create that smell in companies. There are companies, of the companies that were part of our sample. 3M is one example where a management can create the smell and protect it over long periods of time. That's assertion one. It is possible to do it and protect it. Assertion two, it is also possible for a determined management that has inherited more of the downtown Calcutta in summer to convert it to the Fontainebleau Forest, to that new context. And then while we do not know Alcoa or Fiat very well, I mean, from the discussion we're having this morning, some of that has been done in their companies, but we've seen others where it has been possible. And the statement that we would make is, ultimately, what's the test of quality of management of a company? Performance, we know, is a very noisy measure. This, to our mind, is a real test of quality of management, a context that managers create that shapes the behaviors of people, creating the stretch, discipline, trust, and support. Individuals do not change fundamentally in who they are without a very serious personal crisis of some kind. But the conclusion, again, for us, perhaps the key conclusion is that is the wrong question to ask. Revitalizing
So, oh, how do I?
Sir, you are already in the link.
I am already in the link. Huh?
Yes, sir, you are in the meeting.
But how do I go back? The problem.
You could take him off screen.
So you want to play another video?
Yes, but that will break the sequence. But I need
For
to
the
come
time
back.
being, should we change the screen?
Can you, from your end, change the
Okay.
screen?
Yes, sir, we can do that.
Please
Yes.
change.
So
to,
let us change the
change
screen.
where I change to my where I am on the screen. I'll be in the talking mode for a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So the screen is taken.
Okay, sorry, I'm really, I apologize because being so many years in corporate life where you go every quarter to Bombay to talk to analysts, etc. Everything has been physical. Courtesy Corona, these things have started and I'm not practiced enough. Okay, now coming back, that if you see what Shumantro Ghoshal says, and if you see what Zubin Mehta's orchestra talks about, at the end of the day, it is saying that the leader is creating an excitement for the team. We all know that organization structure in a company is like a pyramid. On the pyramid at the top, বাংলায় যেটাকে বলে শুলে চড়ানো, the shareholders put the CEO or MD on the top. Now he cannot do anything himself. He can only jump and commit suicide. The organization then pyramid, if you cut into 6-7 slices, the lowest foundation is really the workmen. And then the volume goes down because of the pyramid. The lowest position, higher position. Then at the below the chief executive, you have, say, vice presidents and senior vice presidents, general manager, etc. Now, what happens? Every other layer has somebody to look up and somebody to guide below. It is only the loneliest person, is the chief executive officer, who can do nothing by himself. He can only expect to excite his people who will perform, and because of which the financial performance will be such that a large chunk of money will come to his annual salary. And that is actually the cruel fact that an organization essentially means a black box. Within that black box, you can have an aluminum plant, you can have a steel plant, you can have an IT, you can have a hospital. You have some sort of an asset which has been set up at some cost, funded by the shareholders, lender, whatever it is. Lender does not loan directly, lender gives it to the shareholder. So the entire asset is of the shareholder, who expects return all the time and from the chief executive officer. Whereas the chief executive officer knows that this asset is capable of producing the required quality of product or services and suitable for the market, and he can encash it for making profit. But to encash it, he has to again exploit a series of things. He has to exploit human resource under him. He has to exploit the market. He has to exploit whatever money he has got. He has to exploit the environment. Environment means, I'm not saying damaging the environment, the government and other things. He has to exploit whatever benefits he can get. He has to exploit technologies. He has to, your battery is running low. Okay, how it is? Oh God, sorry, my battery. Just give me 1 minute. I had kept my heater on for tea. Don't worry. Okay, so essentially an organization is that you have a set of people who has expectation, a set of people who will deliver, and a person who will exploit all the resources and manage all the constraints to deliver the result. This is, and within the ethics, within the norm. Now, I will tell you one thing. I have some reservation on the thing called management consultancy. You see, I have a lot of respect for consultancy, because an organization, say I make steel or I make aluminum, I make power, we are not supposed to know if I have to put up a steel plant, if he wants to put up another power plant. Okay, I'll go to a consultant to make the entire design, drawing, detail engineering, everything. As a steel maker, I am supposed to know steel making, not everything. So consultants are very important in know-how field, technology, technical, vibration, finite analysis, everything. So metallurgy, but when it comes to management consultancy, you see, no management should ever pose a problem, whether it is McKinsey or it is Ernst Young, doesn't matter. If management of a company cannot say, I have a problem, you solve it. मैं क्या करूं? आप बोल दीजिए. That works in technical consultancy. In management consultancy, you as the manager, or you as the leader, or you as the CEO and his team, you should be able to tell, whether it's McKinsey or somebody, that what is the problem you have defined, what are the options you have thought of, where you are hesitant to select an option, and what help you need from that consultant. Otherwise, it will be a story of, give me 1 minute to tell a story, that there was a colony of rats, and one cat came in that colony, and every night it used to kill 10 rats. So rats were very disturbed. They had a general body meeting. So they decided they will appoint a consultant. So they went to a consultant. The consultant quoted a hefty figure. They assigned the job, and after 3 months, the consultant submitted a report, 3 volumes. First volume was on the consultant's own history geography. Second volume is on the statistics of rat killing in the whole world. And last volume was the solution, which was one-line solution. And that one-line solution was that rats should become cats. If the rats become cats, then cats cannot kill the rats. So that is what the solution they gave. Rats were very happy. They came back. The board approved. Now there was one stupid rat, less educated stupid rat, who raised two questions. He said, but we don't know how rats will become cats. And secondly, if all the rats become cats, how those all cats will get their food? So they went back to the consultant again. The consultant said, sorry, that was not in the original assignment. For this, you need to give us a second assignment, and I will give you a discount, 25% discount. But this time the rats were very careful. They said, but at least commit that whatever you gave in the first assignment, in the second assignment, you will give its method of implementation. He said, no, that will come out of the report. And the final report may say, a rat cannot become a cat, so all will remain as it is. So there will be no dearth of food. The cat will continue to eat the rats. Now, this is the problem of a management going to a consultant by saying, I have a problem, you please tell what to do. You need to, management consultancy doesn't work like that. Let me make a little harsh comment because it's not my own. In an American magazine, I saw a beautiful cartoon. The cartoon said, a very successful entrepreneur is telling his friend over a drink that, look, whichever business I put my hand on, everything failed. Till I started my school of business management to teach people how to run business. And this is to some extent true. The conflict between practicing business managers and the consulting business manager, because I have a number of consultants who are great people, including Rajat Mitra, who openly say that define your problem. Define your problem. We have a huge database, we may be able to build up on that. But don't give me a problem by saying, kya kare, main mar gaya. It does not work like that. So, having said that, I would like to sort of come to a small issue which we neglect. The moment we talk of corporate India, in our mind, Reliance, Central Builder Groups, big companies, PSUs. So India Incorporate comes, we look at the share price, ups and downs, and we think that is what is the contributor to the nation. Let us know this figure that more than 50% of the GDP is contributed by the informal sector. And informal sector means when you go around the Gadihat market and Bombay, the roads, all the roadside food to dresses to, it is more than 50% of the economy. And I tell you one thing, which I don't feel very proud, but I need to tell that when I go to Bombay, when I used to go to Bombay, now I will not stay there. I used to always stay in Oberoi, near that Air India building. Now, but I never went to their restaurant to eat those idli, because the idli, two idlis, they charged 400 rupees. I used to cross the road on the other side, not the seaside, the other side. And from a young boy, I used to take two idlis, which were better tasting, fresh, and they were 12 rupees a pair against 400 rupees. Now look at the wealth distribution. In 12 rupees, the boy gets 2 rupees. The balance 10 goes to the supply chain. And this 400 rupees, 350 goes to the overhead, and 50 rupees goes to everything, including corruption. So, and this is true for anything. When a person who is making omelette, he buys 30 eggs, makes 30 omelettes, his working capital of the block in the morning to buy eggs and piyaj and lanka, etc., he is able to sell off 30 or 50 or 100 omelettes, and in the night he comes back with a profit of say 200 rupees for the day and the balance working capital for buying the same thing. That means the working capital is rotating 365 times in a year, or at least 300 times in a year. Whereas, believe me, except some FMCGs, most of the reputed companies we talk about, they rotate their working capital 3 to 4 times in a year. If you take the employment generation, what the informal sector does is amazing. So sometimes, it is true that 400 rupees idli, who takes? At the end of the day, corporate leaders will go, stay there and eat. So that is how they run the business. But it is not an efficient business. It is exploitation of a class. If you see the Bombay, the bazaars on the road, right from dress to mobile to even if you talk of Apple, anything and everything, 50% of GDP, Indian GDP, is a large amount. Though you may not be proud of our GDP, but it's quite large. And that is produced by this informal sector. Per square feet, their contribution per square feet is almost 2,000 times more than the formal sector. But we will still call them informal. We still will not recognize their merit, all these things. Business essentially needs heart. When I talk of heart, why I have talked of romance? Look, this romance term, people might have initially conservative minds. I thought Dr. Bhattacharya, once a reasonably handsome looking guy, once he will talk about some in his corporate life with which beautiful secretary he had an affair or things like that. No, I have realized at this late age that even Ashok or Amitabh, when he has associated himself with metal cutting, he had an affair with metal cutting, he had a love with metal cutting, he had a romance with metal cutting. They had the professionally, whatever they have done more for the love and less for what is the money which is getting accounted to the bank. And person I am the greatest admirer without knowing again much about him. Because what I find in him, that a double dropout from school or college, double dropout, not single dropout, it's a double dropout. First time you enter, you leave. Second time you enter, again you don't do, and you are unable to do a double dropout. But probably one of the greatest technologists, greatest entrepreneur, richest, one of the best manager, one of the best leader, and one of the best philosopher. When he died, people say Mahatma Gandhi said, "Hey Ram." Why he said "Hey Ram," God only knows. But this gentleman told thrice. Wow. I still believe, nobody knows why he said thrice, wow. I still believe he told wow, 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 say what a beautiful life God had given him. So even at the time of dying, he did it. And the person I'm talking of is Steve Jobs. And if you allow me, before concluding, I would like to show a small clipping of the speech, which I think is one of the best speeches of Steve Jobs. Many of you have seen, but it may be worth to look at it once more. Let me show it.
Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start of my life. And 17 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was spending all the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have it. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out. and very publicly out. It had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love. And that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet, death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary.
Oh, can we get back to the original? Hello? Yeah. So I will conclude, because every time I hear it, well, I don't say I cry, but I feel really sort of, I feel troubled. Now, I want to conclude in a completely different mode. When I was working, I used to come to that Park Circus flyover. At that time, the complete flyover was not made, so I have to get down. And at that junction, a young boy used to sell flowers, roses. And he used to ask for each rose, good quality rose, 10, 12 rupees. 12 rupees probably. So sometime I used to buy, sometimes no. Now one day I found that I smiled and said, "Nahi, ghar mein koi nahi hai. What I will do with the rose?" The boy, young boy, somehow liked me that even so-called Saab is communicating and reasoning to me why they cannot buy. So he said, "Saab, आपके लिए 6 रुपया में, from 12, 6 रुपया." Now his price may be 5 rupees, his cost. Even it may be 6 rupees or 7 rupees. I once thought at that juncture, look at this self-employed guy. He can make the price 12 to 6 rupees or even below his cost just because if he likes my face. But in this large corporate with systems, procedures, shackles, etc., even as the CEO or even the board, it will be very difficult because of the so many MBAs that you don't take an order, that order is gone. Maybe your stock will remain, but even to give a 5, 7, 10% discount to dispose it off, 100 people will write why it should not be done. The decision-making process is so lousy. So why I showed Zubin, Sumantro, and finally the great guru Steve Jobs. I have said that look, at the end of the day, at least between Zubin and Steve Jobs, they're the best in their class or that era or that century. But they hardly talk about their own skill. Steve Jobs' entire lecture shows he repeats the term karma, he repeats the term love, he repeats the term heart so many times. So I think I will say that people like us who came to the market not a completely cooked engineer and had to drip for 40 years, maybe it has enabled me personally to follow my heart. That let me change. I have not changed for money, though money has been enough. I have changed for challenges, because if you are working in aluminium with such reputation in National Aluminium Company, where you are virtually at the board level, and even today the CMD of Steel Authority, Soma Mondal, was a senior engineer with me. But I suddenly changed because I thought from aluminium to steel without ever seeing steel is a great learning. Very few will take it. Ruyas have taken me because Ruyas are crazy. So I need to get a crazy man to make such crazy decision. I cannot go to Tata Steel and say, make me chief operating officer or MD. They won't do it. They would like somebody with a historical knowledge of steel so that they are completely spoiled with wrong information and don't have an open mind. So I don't know how I conclude, but I will conclude by saying our young generation should have a complete classification. Either you are of that quality where your destination is fixed along with your brilliance, or you, even if you are brilliant, at the end of the day, this Kullan Roy, Aparna Sen's husband, is my brother. Now, Kullan joined IIT, but then left because he loved English literature. And the fellow is quite a prominent writer today because I know his father was hell-bent to make him an IIT. You know, those days fathers wanted a son to be an engineer or doctor. He just ran away from home. He said, I will do English literature. Finally, I will go abroad. So he went to USA, Rochester, did PhD. He teaches in USA, wrote that book, No Country, beautiful book. Right? It's somewhat like, you know, it's a beautiful book. Now, he has followed what he would have been a bad engineer, but he followed his heart. He followed his passion. And I think it is important. And I sincerely I'll tell you, as I have one daughter whom I pushed because she was good to be again from Pilani. She was a double in information technology and management. I pushed, she happened. But my granddaughter, the only child, right from the birth, we decided she will do what her heart wants. And I think I have not told something which is not truth or which is artificially, which is prepared just for the sake of the lecture. I'm vouching that what Shumantra said was a product of his conversation with me when I was in Hazira, when I said exactly that I am creating an environment of flavor, etc., etc., etc. So this is important even for educational institutes, any organization, a hospital, any place, that the management, the chief executive has to create a vibrant environment which is like everybody enters that place. It's a romantic place. That's I finish here. If there is any question, I'll be delighted to attempt to reply. I think I've taken a little more time. 10 minutes more time.
So, Professor Mollik, please. Sir, any comment you would like to make?
Vidyut, I will like to
Yes,
add few words from my maybe. Well, I enjoyed Purandar's lecture. I will name it as delightful. I'll say it's a delightful lecture. I was laughing all the time. He was speaking from his heart. Now, one thing.
Because you love me, that's why you are. You know, Ashok will also say that. Amitabh will
You are also laughing. You are also laughing. I must say, one must do one loves. That I have learned throughout my at the cost of my life. But I am following it for a long time. One must love what one does. Now, apart from the basic educational value of his lecture, I like the way he presented it with certain few videos from here and there. And I say some more thing. I don't agree to all whatever he's saying. It's obvious. But one thing, his type of structure, top down, one structure I know in this country, one organization, there are quite a few. That is Ramakrishna Mission. It is not top down. There are some parallelity. There are 1,000 sannyasis, and all sannyasis are free not to follow what the boss says. The President Maharaj, whatever he says. That is a freedom there. This is one thing. Now, one more thing. Regarding management consultancy, that is not done to improve the company. That is done to throw away some people. The management was reluctant to give their name against throwing away some people. I want to put these people off. They tell the consultants first that your report should contain that these people are unproductive. I'll throw this off. So they pay the money to get a shield. And then they say these people are not required, as has been given by the management consultant. That is one of the things I have learned in my life. Now, with one more statement, I'll finish. There are other people. Amitabh is there. Kamal is there. I hope Kamal will say something. One thing, I had been to Purandar's Tati Silvai company. I mean, he was not there. At that time, a man from Bangalore, beautiful person. He was the GM there. So what happened? I somehow got inducted in the. I don't belong to the second Hooghly structure, but I got inducted in the second Hooghly structure. Whatever they were doing, I got involved in it. So when the people from second Hooghly went to see the testing of the cables for the Vidyasagar Setu, I was in that team. So I went Tatisulai, we visited and we saw the testing and all that. That was a beautiful and lovely occasion for my learning also. And in this way, honestly, believe me, I gave a lecture a few days back. I said workshop site is the best teacher for us. So I've been visited various places in this country in various capacities, and even as a consultant. But then I went on learning and learning and learning. With this, you got to love. You got to love whatever you are doing. So with this, I am ending. I enjoyed Purandar's lecture, and I thank him from my heart.
Dada, Actor Volvo, I belong to a Brahmin Pandit family, middle class. I had to give 2,000 VRS to save 8,000 others. It was a compulsion. I never took advice from any consultant to keep my name away. But believe me, during this period, months I could not sleep in the night. Months.
Yes,
I just
yes.
couldn't sleep.
I can appreciate the
Because
feeling I have gone through. Yes.
I know what happens. It's terrible. It's terrible because you have taken them, you have inflated your company, you have in good days, you have said, अच्छा, बीबी को, साला को भतीजा है, भेज दो, join कर ले. You have been responsible to inflate your company. And today, somebody else has to suffer for that. So the company is responsible. And that when I corrected, I can tell you, I just can't sleep in the night to sack 2,000 people, even with money. Money is not the end of the day. It's the pride of work. It is his name in the society that he is being chucked out because he is found to be surplus. So I just don't love it. That's simple.
Thank you.
So there are a couple of questions, or rather a few statements for the speaker. I would request Vidut to read out the statements.
Okay, sir. So the first comment is from Susmayan Trivedi. He says, absolutely spellbinding lecture, sir. Though my question is a little bit irrelevant, but since the discussion is about passion, I can't help but asking, between Shibpurer Lords and Baliganjer Bortola, which one is closer to your heart?
See, these are two phases of life. One is a childhood, one is
difficult to choose one.
16 to 22. Okay, in Shibpur and others, we are in the other world. If it was America, I would have been busy only with lovely girls. So that age is a age of romance, whereas school days is naughtiness. So you cannot compare the two. I love Baligan Government School. If I go, I sit under Bortola and spend hours with my daughter and see that room where in the opposite, by the side of the room on the corridor, I was asked to kneel down with the holding my ears, and I was weeping when the headmaster came and rescued me. Those are completely, and Joydev, my sort of my like college, Ashok, another Joydev, my so it was something different. So B college is, I can tell you that nothing on college life, nothing can be more dearer to me than B college. Nothing. Sort of, I have been to IIT, I have been to many places, all are fascinating. They're fantastic, sports facilities, etc. They're cosmopolitan, everything is fine. But B college is you are making your first friends. I don't have a single friend who, you see, Ashok, if Ashok becomes something, nobody gets Nobel Prize tomorrow or Amitabh, I will dance on the road. If I do something great, Ashok will dance on the floor, but I won't have anybody from IIT or my professional life who will dance on the floor because I have become something great. I can tell you. So B college is B college.
Yeah, the student I think is from Baligaj, your school itself.
Baliganj
That's why
Government
he
High School
discussed it.
is absolutely the best in the years when I passed out. In fact, it was like IIT exam. 130, I got admitted in class 4, not in class 3. Class 3 is still possible because they take 30 intake for 300 people to compete. So 1 in 10. I did not take in 3, I took in 4. In 4, they took 3 students out of 120. And the 3 students we got in is me, Joydev, and one Purandar Bhattacharya, who went to Jadavpur and then guesting Bombay, corporate world guesting. So 3 of us got in. And at that time, Baliganj Government High School was definitely the best school. In my batch, the topper was the topper, 9th, 11th, all were from Baliganj Government High School. That school
Still performs well.
So if I can move to the next question. So the second question is from Dr. Tarun Kumar Singh. He says, you have told that CEO has to create the environment. Give 1-2 examples how to create environment.
I think here I can also put in a question here. So this is Sudhir here. I think I am just to let you know, I am not joining from my account, so I am sitting with Vidhu. So I think along with this question, you can also address if a student or maybe a young engineer chooses a career in management, how important is professional ethics and honesty? Or is it only intelligence and craftsmanship, or how well do you maneuver in higher management, or ethics is still needed? Sticking to the ethics.
Sir, in
I
India,
will try to intervene. Purandar, kindly permit me. You see, I don't like Tarun's question, whoever he is. I mean, his whole lecture, Purandar's whole lecture is how to do it. Now, what he's doing, was he sleeping all along and asking such silly questions? Please don't mind. At the age of 81, I mean, asking such a question, his whole lecture is about that. And how beautifully he has placed the lecture to put this in a dull head like me. I could understand what is management from his lecture. But Torun asking a question like this, is he asking a question to ask a question only? I don't know. Anyway, I mute.
sir, I can't be rude as a speaker. You are Dada. Torun is asking for help. Torun is saying that I am in a chair today, I am younger, I want to create that environment. Can you tell me how, is there any written down book? No, it has to come from your heart. If you, whether you are people loving or not, it comes from your heart. You cannot have a written down note in your sort of pocket the diary you take out, that to be friendly to employees, I have to do these things. You can't do that. You can make money being unscrupulous, but if you want to be happy and be on the top, you have to be a good person at heart. A good manager should be a good person. Sometimes we take ruthless decisions. You see, please don't mix up ruthless decision is to the basic mind. When I recruit one person as a vindictive attitude, that is far worse than sacking 2,000 people without looking at their face, purely based on evaluation to save in the boat which is carrying 8,000 more. So there are certain things which are compulsion, but certain things you do as a vindictive chief executive, that you start sort of hitting people you think they're loyal to the previous regime you have come. So I have seen enough of those guys, and I can tell you, I would love to have half the salary, but maintain my sort of the way I enjoy.
So, sir, if I request you to give a single statement advice for students who are willing to join industry or rather make career in management, is it that listen to your heart? Or would you like to put it in some other way?
I will tell you, this is my very strong conviction that certain private colleges, in which in one I was some sort of a governing body on request and mentor, I have consistently told one, you are making money by taking a lot of fees, but you are producing unemployable fellows into lowest grade employment with an MBA stamping. All MBAs are not IIM, and IIM also is IIM because the type of students who are joining. If the best students, if Ragurajan or or this RBI governor or ITC, the late Yogi, if these people join a business school in India, well, the business school gets enriched because of them. Let us not look at an institute beyond its perspective. An institute is to educate. Institute has a product. The products are those 60 guys in a branch and say 10 branches, 600 guys every year that is the product which they have to put to the marketplace, and various type of marketplace. One of my colleagues used to work under me in Usha Martin, in fact, in Tati Shilwai, Uttam Bose. Uttam Bose became a chief executive of both Motors as well as CMRI, Calcutta Medical Research Institute or whatever it is, build a organization. So, you see, the institute has to. I have a strong grievance against B College placement department. I'm sorry for telling in a public forum. I have been in a senior position board level for 20 years. I have employed thousands and thousands of people. I have never received, I have seen even a person like Amitabh Jaminida, who knows that their one word is a command. Amitabh, when he was director at Kharagpur, one day rang me up and directly said, oh, you bring your team and yourself and just go around all the department and see his capability, so that if there is an opportunity to have a consultancy, that will be nice. But believe me, from B College, placement department, never got a letter, never got a phone call, never got an invitation to go for a campus recruitment. Never. Whereas an institute is not for Ashok Malik. Institute is not for Tapan Bhattacharya. Institute is not for Amitabh Bachchan. Institute has to produce 600 employable people who can help in the economic growth of the country. And for that, to put them in the right slot at that young age, the placement department has to be more proactive, which the college has not done, according to me.
So Professor Ghosh has mentioned
I would like to add something here. Vidut, I would like to add something here. That is the first part of the question regarding the role of the management schools. You see, the companies like Hindustan Lever, they are called the teacher of executives in this country. Anyway, Hindustan Lever, or for that matter, L&T, they go to the market to take people who will ultimately be the managing director or general manager or whatever.
Yeah.
So they have to inspect millions of people. Can you do that? Can you interview millions of boys? No. So the shortest course is let some
Screening already has happened.
institution interview. That is the job of the management schools, whatever they teach, but at least they do the screening and make the student palatable. I mean, that's a very, very odd way of speaking, but I think Purandar may kindly agree. I mean, may agree with me.
Dada, I will tell you one thing. The housing complex where I stay, we have an IIM Ahmedabad person who got through. He's about 50 years old, got through as an MSc Physics fellow. So wasted up to the MSc Physics, and then 1 year finance course really in IIM, and could do nothing anywhere in the world. Please understand, IIM is not a transformation machine. That IIM is basically adding 2% value. 98% is in that boy itself who are entering. So what L&T, etc., why they take from IIM? Because they know that it has been screened and they are the best in the country. So whether they were in IIM or no, IIM is just has finished them. Has finished means finishing course. But basic quality is of the boy, not of IIM. Basic quality is of the person. Because, sir, after IIM, he has to spend 30-40 years. Mr. Nayak of L&T, without going to IIM, has been Mr. Nayak. Whereas there will be Yogi Deveshwar was not an IIM person. So I have great respect for these marvelous institutes. Only I am saying that we should balance our appreciation for the person. The person inherently was great, good. And that's why when they get into the great institute, the combination becomes terrific. Otherwise, in every institute, whether you talk of IIT, out of 60 boys, there is a topper, there is a last one. In BE College, Mechanical, there will be a topper, Tapan Bhattacharya and Ashok, there will be a last boy. So the ingredient of the boy is quality of the boy who is being molded is more important than the molding machine itself. It is no disrespect for institutes. It's an appreciation for individuals.
Professor Ghosh has left a few words for you. These are really nice words. He remembered his early days student. And
I wanted to hear it.
Yes, and we could read it out with please.
So Professor Ghosh said a very enjoyable lecture. It was very nice to have listened to Purandar, whom I loved a lot. Feel great to remember that once upon a time I was his teacher and had many interesting interventions.
Very nice. It's quite late. Maybe we have to close down here. Komanda, any words you would like to?
Thank you. Yes, I will. First thing, Purandar, wonderful lecture. And Achyuta said earlier, and is true, and I'm addressing all the students. By the way, Purandar, I'm 68 batch mechanical. One thing you have to understand, students, how diverse the mechanical engineering is. We call it mother of all engineering. In the sense that it's most creative department, of course, civil is father, you can say. Most creative engineering department, therefore you can go almost anywhere in life. Look at the diverse array of speakers we have already seen. By the way, thanks to Vidyut, wonderful job, identifying these luminaries and showing the whole breadth of mechanical engineering. But one thing is very common, independent of all these lectures or discussions. The most important thing is that if you look back, I'm addressing to the students because I'm still a teacher. Look at the passion. It doesn't matter who is talking. Starting from Amitavda, Achyuta, then Ashokda, then Purandar, there's one common thing, independent of the diverse topics, passion. They follow their passion. And as Steve Jobs talked about, connect the dots. Find it out what is your love and follow through. But apart from the pep talk, let me take one question for Purandar. Probably you are aware of it, that BE College also have, now we have IIEST has also got what we call it, TCG, TBI. Basically, it's an incubator. Now, I think this particular entity is going through some ups and downs. Okay? They're almost in a survival mode. Probably people like you, Achyuta, and Amitavda can help this institute to come up. This particular entity survive, because this is, I believe, is one of the definitely bright spot. I'm not going into the politics at all. That's not my call. I left India in 78. But what I'm interested to see that BE College is struggling to go up in terms of, ranking. So we need to support everybody. And Achyuta, I can tell you one thing, whatever Vidyut is doing is wonderful, and what you are doing as a moderator, I cannot. Namaskar. Okay, that's all I can say. But please give some guidance to our students, to our faculty member, toward these new entities, particularly these incubators. So it will be a real wonderful thing. That's all my comments are. Once again, thank you everybody. Pranam to my seniors.
Thank you.
I must take permission of Professor Mullik. Professor Mullik was leading the session, but we took liberty of interaction here. So, sir, final words from you, Professor Mullik, please.
Well, as I said right in the beginning, that I do not need to ask Purandar anything because I can read his mind and he can read mine.
That's all.
So there is no need to ask him. I was happy that he agreed at a very short notice.
Yes, practically
He was given
less than a
only
week's
4 or
notice.
5 days, and we were constantly
Yes,
in touch.
4 or 5 days notice.
Not only
Thank
that,
you,
there
Purandar.
is
I mean, I am not thanking on behalf of them.
there is a mishap in my house in the sense my wife is
Yes,
COVID
he's also
positive
passing
for
through
last
some
7 days.
difficulty.
But I still agreed because it is BE College and it is also. So nothing is.
This morning I was having some talk with Dr. Bhattacharya. In fact, I was listening to all this these old days words. How 4 Bhattacharya was there in a room, and how these 4 Bhattacharya have fared well today. And that includes another speaker of ours who will be singing, Dr. Devesh Bhattacharya.
I will add a last word for that matter. Professor Bhattacharya, Purandar, He could have given this lecture in 1 hour's notice. He has not prepared anything. He's speaking his heart out. So, but
He's speaking his heart. Yeah.
he's speaking his heart. He's all knowledge for last 40 years, whatever, 60 years, 70 years, whatever he has learned, he's just recalling those things. So
And
this lecture doesn't, we poor people, we prepare slides, this and that, to make our thoughts viable and visible. But Purandar does not need all this put nonsense. He's just speaking his mind. That's why I enjoyed this lecture. Purandar, I
probably,
must thank you. I
But
must
one
thank you.
note of thanks, I will thank that young lady. I don't know who is she, because yes, I can speak without preparation, because that is how I have earned my bread and butter. But handling a laptop with all these share is not my cup of tea. So yesterday only I told my daughter, create an invitation and teach me little. But I must say, Vidyut and that lady rescued me, and I'm thankful to both. Please thank her, and Vidyut, please thank you very much.
Yeah, I think so. It was Sumona.
Thank you, sir.
Sumona and Tanishta was there.
well,
Okay, Shomana,
so
thank you
on,
very much.
so on behalf of the department and on behalf of the Centenary Celebration Committee, I must thank Dr. Bhattacharya, our speaker. I must also thank the session chair, Professor Mollik, who introduced our speaker. I must also thank all our seniors who have joined. I mean, it looks really nice to see Kamalda joining from Texas, Achyuta joining from here, Professor Ghosh joining from here. I mean, we are really indebted to all these seniors to making this forum so rich. We are also getting rich.
We love our college.
And that's what is expressed. So thank you very much. With your permission and with permission of the Professor Mollik, will be closing it down. But before you close, one last thing, I would request Professor Mollik to virtually hand over a certificate of appreciation. We'll be sending the hard copy. We'll be preparing the hard copy and we'll arrange to send it along with a memento. So lot of thanks from the department and from the Centenary Committee. The digital copy we will be sending through email, but we also have plans to make hard copies and then send it in some way.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks to all.
Thank you. See you
Thank
again.
you very much.